Welcome, have a nice day. Today is Sunday, 11th of May 2025. Now, starting the newspaper with the world news, including Trump says great progress made as the United States China tariff talks to continue on Sunday. Russian President Putin proposes direct talks with the Ukraine on May 15 in the Istanbul, Bangladesh bans Sheikh Hasina's Awami League under anti-terrorism law. Iran will not back down from the nuclear rights, foreign minister says. Israeli airstrikes killed 23 in the Gaza as outcry over aid and blockade grows. Germany will support remoting arms deliveries to Ukraine, Mirror says. Day after the Trump hints at lowering a Beijing tariff, United States Chinese officials begin Geneva talks to ease a trade war report. European leaders visit Kiev and push for 30 days ceasefire. South Korean Conservative Party moves to switch presidential candidates as election turmoil deepens. China strongly urges India Pakistan to exercise calm restraint. United States Embassy in Kiev warns of potentially significant air attack. Now from the Hindu newspaper, we have a brief discussion regarding the peace deal struck, but Pakistan violates understanding along a border. India has consistently maintained a firm and uncompromising stance against terrorism. In all its forms and manifestations, it will continue to do so, says External Affairs Minister Dr. S. J. Shankar. In this screen grab from a video released by PMOI on May 10, 2025, Union External Minister Affairs Mr. Ajay Shankar during a meeting chaired by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the latter's residence after the announcement of ceasefire between India and Pakistan in New Delhi. After 3 days of intense military hostilities, India and Pakistan have reached an understanding about stopping military action and firing. External Affairs Minister Ajay Shankar announced on Saturday, May 10, 2025. Officials also asserted that the decision to stop the military actions was bilaterally agreed between India and Pakistan, and that the initiation of this understanding would not affect the several recent punitive decisions that India has taken targeting Pakistan after the deadly terrorist attack in the Pahalgam on April 22. G7 countries call for immediate de-escalation in India-Pakistan conflict. Foreign Minister of the seven wealthy democracies said further military escalation poses a serious threat to regional stability. The G7 group of nations called for immediate de-escalation and a maximum restraint in the conflict between India and Pakistan. G7 group of nations on Friday, May 9, 2025 called for immediate de-escalation and maximum restraint in the conflict between India and Pakistan as tensions escalates between the nuclear-armed neighbors. Further military escalation poses a serious threat to regional stability, the Foreign Minister of the seven wealthy democracies said in a statement, adding that both sides should engage in direct dialogue towards a peaceful outcome. Brazil President Lula da Silva to visit China ahead of a regional summit. Since returning to power in early 2023, Mr. Lula has sought to improve ties with both China and the United States. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva left shakes the hands with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Brazil's president will begin a 5-day trip to China on Saturday. Beijing announced ahead of the gathering of Latin American leaders in the country next week. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and state's visit comes at the invitation of counterpart President Xi Jinping and will last until Wednesday, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said on a statement on Saturday, May 10, 2025. Israeli airstrikes killed 23 in the Gaza as outcry over aid blockade grows. The United Nations and aid groups have rejected Israel's aid distribution moves, including a plan from a group of American security contractors, ex-military officers, and humanitarian aid officials calling itself the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. An Israeli Armored D-9 bulldozer maneuvers in Gaza as seen from the Israeli side of the Israel-Gaza border, May 10, 2025. Israeli airstrikes overnight and into the Saturday, May 10, 2025, killed at least 23 Palestinians in Gaza, including 3 children and their parents, whose tent was bombed in Gaza City, health officials said. The bombardment continued as international warnings grew over the Israeli plans to control aid distribution in the Gaza as Israel's blockade on the territory of over 2 million people in its third month. Now, going towards the Hindustan Times newspaper, states that many report 3 suspected members of paramilitant groups held in separate operations. 5 mobile handsets and other car and a four-wheeler vehicle were seized from the door's position, and officers said. In fall, the Manipur police have arrested 3 men illegally active members of the proscribed militant groups United Nations Liberation Front PEMBE, UNLFP faction, and the Revolutionary People's Front People's Liberation Army (RPF) PLA in separate operations in the Impal West on Friday. India's green cover grew to 25.17% of the geographical area report. The report said an increase in green cover was a result of key national initiatives. India has reported that its forest and tree cover now encompasses 25.17% of its geographical area, where the United Nations Forum on Forest (UNFF). While highlighting several national conservation initiatives, the Environment Ministry said on Friday. The statistic part of the latest State of Forest report was presented at the UNFF being held at the United Nations headquarters in New York from May 5 to 9, where India detailed a consistent increase in forest and tree cover resulting from the key programs. These initiatives include the restoration of land under the Aravalli Green Wall, a 7.86% increase in the mangrove cover over the past decade, afforestation of over 1.55 lakh hectares under the Green India Mission, and plantation of 1.4 billion seedlings under the Ek Peda Ma Ke Naam Plant for Mother campaign, the ministry statement noted. Ek Ped Ma Ke Naam Plant for Mother campaign. These studies quantified ecosystem services such as carbon sequestration, water provisioning, and biodiversity conservation using the frameworks including the System of Environmental Economic Accounting (SEA), SIA, and a Millennium Ecosystem Assessment (MEA). According to India's State of Forest Report 2023 released by the United Nations Environment Ministry in December last year, the country's forest and tree cover spans 8,27,357 square kilometers. This includes 21.76% forest cover and 3.41% tree cover. The report shows an increase of 1,445 square kilometers total green cover since 2021, and it is comparable to Delhi. However, the release of the state forest report by the Forest Survey of India has been delayed by more than a year, despite being scheduled biennially. The previous report was published in 2021. The UNWF, which was evolved over the 2 decades into the central actor in global forest policy, spearheads consensus on forest-related issues by adopting frameworks such as the United Nations Forest Instrument, the Global Forest Goals, and the United Nations Strategic Plan for the Forest 2017-2030. This strategic plan established 6 voluntary global forest goals, including reversing of deforestation, increasing forest area by 3% worldwide, and maintaining or enhancing the world's forest carbon stocks. 87 hours 56 minutes later, India and Pakistan halt hostilities. Talks remain. India and Pakistan opened a window of peace on Saturday, agreeing to halt escalating hostilities that began at 1 to 4 a.m. on Wednesday. India and Pakistan agreed on Saturday to stop the military actions against each other, bringing it to an end of 4 days of fighting across the western border. Although by late evening there were enough violations by Pakistan to evoke a strong statement from India. The 4-day scrap represented the worst face-off between the two nuclear-armed neighbors in the decades and stoked fears of a full-blown war. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced the ceasefire around 6 p.m. minutes after United States President Donald Trump made a surprise declaration on social media but he returned at a hurriedly call and brief press briefing at 11 p.m. to confirm that Pakistan repeatedly violated the ceasefire. In the evening, and that the armed forces have given an adequate and appropriate response. There were unconfirmed reports of drone sightings in several border provinces, including Punjab, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, going towards the economy of the country from the business point of view, pick the right alignment to avoid the construction of big bridges and roads, says RVNL CMD. Learnings from the Kashmir line for Rishikesh Karnaprayag line. Pradeep Gaur, chairperson and MD RVNL. After the completion of the Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla railway link, USBRL, the 125-kilometer Rishikesh Karnaprayag line is another Himalayan project of the Indian Railways. Navratna PSU Rail Vikas Nigam Limited RVNL is tasked with implementing the Rishikesh Karnaprayag project to ensure its timely completion. In an interview with the Dheeraj Mishra, RVNL chairperson and the managing director Pradeep Kaur, said an Rishikesh Karnaprayag project is a more significant as it is a gateway to the China border. Audit firewalls, real-time reporting. FM asks banks to step up cyber legal aim tensions with Pakistan. Expressing concern about the safety of the bank employees and for their families working at a branch in the border areas, the finance minister directed banks to ensure their adequate safety by effectively coordinating with the security agencies. The finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman remarked that the emergency protocol should be updated and tested to handle any arising contingencies. Inflows into the equity mutual funds declined 3.2% in the month of April FY. With the equity mutual fund schemes, inflows into the mid-cap funds fell 3.63% to rupees 3,313.98 crore in the month of February compared to 3,438.87 crore in the previous month. Inflows into equity mutual fund declined 3.2% on a month-on-month basis to rupees 24,269.26 crore in the month of April compared to rupees 25,082.01 crore in the previous month. The latest data from the Association of Mutual Funds in India AMFI showed. Now going to science and tech, we have Soviet era spacecraft plunges to Earth after 53 years stuck in orbit. Soviet era spacecraft Cosmos 482 entered the Earth's atmosphere in an uncontrolled but expected maneuver. Venera 4 model at the Memorial Museum of Cosmonautics, similar to the retiree entering the spacecraft Cosmos 484. It was the part of the series of missions bound of Venus, but never made it out of Earth's orbit due to the rocket failure. A Soviet era spacecraft landed to Earth on Saturday, May 10, 2025, more than a half century after its failure launch to Venus. The European Union Space Surveillance and Tracking confirmed its uncontrolled re-entry. Based on analysis and no shows of the spacecraft on subsequent orbits, the European Space Agency's Space Debris Office also indicated that the spacecraft had re-entered after it failed to appear over a German radar station. It was not immediately known where the spacecraft came or how much, if any, of the half-ton spacecraft survived the fiery descent from orbit. Experts said ahead of the time that somehow, if not all, of it might come crashing down. Given it was built to withstand a landing on Venus, the solar system's hottest planet. The chances of anyone getting collaborated by spacecraft debris were exceedingly low, scientists said. Launched in 1972 of the Soviet Union, the spacecraft known as the Cosmos 482 was a part of the series missions bound for Venus, but this one never made it out of the orbit around the Earth, stranded there by a rocket malfunction. How did India's national health program contribute to the increase in longevity? Programs by successive governments such as National Health Mission, Ayushman Bharat and Poshan Abhiyan alongside focus on education and development, have helped the country reach a life expectancy of 72 years up to from 58.6 in 1990. India has continued to witness a significant improvement in the key maternal and child health indicators. India has registered a rise of Human Development Index (HDI), ranking 130 out of 193 countries as per the 2025 Human Development Report (HDR) released earlier this week by the United Nations Development Programme. The country ranked 133 in 2022. India's HDI value increased from 0.676 in 2022 to 0.685 in 2023, placing the country in the medium human development category. Now at last, there is a famous personality of India whose full name is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, whose birth anniversary is 1817 up to 27th of March 1898 from 17 October. He was an Indian Muslim reformer, philosopher and educationist in the 19th century during British India. Though initially espousing Hindu-Muslim unity, which is already compulsory today, he later became the pioneer of the Muslim nationalism in India and is widely credited as the father of the two-nation theory, which formed the basis of the Pakistan movement. Born into a family with strong ties to the Mughal court, Ahmad studied science and the Quran. With the court, he was awarded an honorary LLD from the University of Edinburgh in 1889. In 1838, Sayyid Ahmad entered the service of East India Company and became the judge at a small causes court in 1867. Retiring from this position in 1876 during the Indian Mutiny of 1857, he remained loyal to the British Raj and was noted for his actions in saving European lives. After the rebellion, he penned the booklet, The Cause of the Indian Mutiny, adhering critically at the time of various British policies that had blamed for causing the revolt. Believing that the future of the Muslims was threatened by the rigidity of their orthodox outlook, Sir Ahmed began promoting Western satire, scientific education by founding modern schools and journals, and organizing Islamic entrepreneurs, Victoria School of at Kazipur in 1863, and a Scientific Society for Muslims in 1864. In 1875, founded Mohammedan Anglo-Orient College, the first Muslim university in the Southern Asia. During his career, Said repeatedly called upon Muslims to loyally serve the British Raj and promoted the adoption of Urdu as a lingua franca of all Indian Muslims. Said criticized the Indian National Congress. Said there is a strong legacy in Pakistan and also among the Indian Muslims. He became a source of inspiration for the Pakistan movement and its activists, including Allama Iqbal and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. His advocacy of Islam is a rationalist tradition and a pro-radical in the reinterpretation of the Quran to make it compatible with the science and modernity continues to influence the global Islamic reformation. Many universities and the public buildings in Pakistan bear the Sayyid's name. Aligarh Muslim University celebrated Sayyid's 200th birth century with much enthusiasm on October 17, 2017. Sayyid Ahmad Khan says a very famous quotation. He says that when a nation becomes devoid of art and learning, it invites poverty. And when poverty comes, it brings in its wake thousands of crimes. Okay, thank you.